skies above Planet Velaris burned red again. Huge enemy ships floated silently over the cities while black smoke covered the stars. Broken buildings filled the streets. Sirens screamed day and night. Every hour, more people disappeared. Inside the underground command center, the Valerian leaders stood around a damaged hologram map. Red warning lights flashed across the room. General Kale looked tired. His silver armor was scratched and covered with dust.
The alerts are spiking across the board. If the reinforcements don't arrive within the hour, this station is lost.
A soldier said quietly. Nobody answered. They already knew the truth. Velaris was losing the war.
We need more power. Bypass the regulators now.
For 6 long months, they had sent emergency signals across the galaxy. They begged for help from every major empire, but nobody came. Some planets ignored them. Some were too afraid of the enemy. Others simply did not care. The people of Velaris slowly understood something terrible. The galaxy had abandoned them. Above the city, enemy bombers crossed the clouds again. Explosions shook the ground.
Go, get down
Parents
there now!
pulled their
Hurry,
children
quickly,
into shelters while soldiers
Weapons free!
prepared for
Engage the
another
targets!
hopeless battle. Then
happened to the
suddenly,
screens?
every screen inside the
dead.
command center turned black.
We've lost power to the main
The
grid.
room became silent. A new signal appeared. Unknown origin detected. The officers looked at each
The
other
signal is
nervously.
unstable. It's spiking faster than
sent that?
predicted. We are
One
running out of
scientist
time.
whispered. The screen flickered. Then a voice spoke. Cold, calm, human. Earth has received your distress call. The entire room froze. General Kale's eyes widened slightly. Earth, he repeated slowly. The scientists immediately began searching the galactic records. Very little information appeared.
The energy signature on Sector Gamma is
Species name,
fluctuating rapidly.
Human.
Reroute power immediately.
Planet type,
The structural integrity is
Deathworld.
failing.
Threat level, extreme survival adaptation. One young officer looked confused. Deathworld? An older scientist swallowed nervously. A planet with deadly storms, deadly animals, diseases, high gravity, endless
From the depths of the
wars.
ocean to the heart of the storm, the
The room
world
became quiet
is at
again.
war.
Another officer spoke carefully. I heard stories about humans. What kind of stories, Kale asked.
They know we have the data.
The officer
The attack
hesitated.
is imminent. We have less than an hour
They
before the
say
fleet
humans
arrives.
smile during danger. Nobody laughed. Because deep inside, every Valerian had heard strange rumors about Earth. A violent species, a dangerous species. A
Reroute
species
power now.
the
We're losing
galaxy
containment.
feared.
It's not responding. The system is locked.
Suddenly,
Override it.
alarms
We have to stop the breach.
exploded across the room. Unknown fleet entering orbit. Everyone looked up at the main screen. Massive dark ships slowly appeared above Velaris. They moved silently through the burning clouds like giant shadows. No bright lights, no peaceful signals, only silence. A small Valerian child standing near the shelter window stared at the ships with fear in her
Warships are too
eyes.
strong. I can
Then
see
she
them destroying the
whispered
port.
softly,
They're coming for us next.
"Those aren't rescue ships." The giant ships above Velaris did not attack. They simply waited. Dark metal covered their bodies and strange symbols glowed softly across their sides. Compared to normal galactic ships, they looked heavy, almost brutal. The people of Velaris watched in complete silence. Then the first human shuttle descended through the burning sky. It landed outside the main defense base with a loud metallic impact that shook the ground.
Mayday, mayday, mayday. We're losing altitude
Valerian
fast. Brace for
soldiers
impact.
raised their weapons nervously. The shuttle door slowly opened. Steam poured out into the cold air. And then, the humans walked out. No one spoke. The first human was tall and heavily armored. A long scar crossed one side of his face. Behind him came more soldiers carrying massive weapons like they weighed nothing. But what truly shocked the Valerians was how calm the humans looked. The air outside was toxic after months of war. Even trained Valerian soldiers needed breathing masks. The humans wore none. One alien doctor stared at a scanner in disbelief. "Impossible," she whispered. General Kale stepped
Commander,
forward
what's the situation on the
carefully. "You are
Firewalls
from
are failing,
Earth?"
General. We have to pull back.
The scarred human looked directly at him. "Yes."
I am
voice
Commander
was
Elias Ward.
calm,
As long as I draw breath,
almost
this ground will never fall.
emotionless.
We hold the line.
"I am Commander Elias Ward." Another explosion echoed in the distance, but the human commander did not even turn around. That alone made the Valerians uncomfortable. Inside the medical center,
Look at the mutation
alien
rate. It's
scientists
accelerating by the
quickly
stars. The
scanned
subject
the
is
human
deteriorating faster than
soldiers.
projected. We've lost
The
containment.
results
God, look at the
terrified
bone
them.
density.
I've never seen anything
bones
like
were
it.
It
denser
shouldn't be
than
glowing like
steel
that.
alloys used by
The
some
ATP synthesis rate in the
species.
enhanced fibers is
Their
unprecedented.
muscles could survive
Confirmed.
extreme
Neural integration
gravity.
appears fully stable.
Their bodies resisted poison, radiation, heat, and cold far beyond normal
Contagion level is
limits.
critical. It's spreading too
One
fast. We
scientist
can't
looked
stop it.
pale while
The
reading
humans
the
are
data.
vectors.
These people are biologically built for war. Meanwhile, outside the base, enemy ships suddenly
Clear right.
appeared above
Watch
the
the skies.
mountains.
We have hostiles incoming.
Warning sirens screamed across the city. Enemy attack incoming.
Surrender now!
Valerian soldiers rushed into defensive positions. General Kale grabbed his weapon and looked toward the humans. "Take cover," he shouted. But the human soldiers did not move.
Ward
Commander
Command.
Ward
The perimeter has been
calmly
breached.
watched
We are
the
containing
enemy
the advance.
ships
Requesting
approach.
immediate air support on the
Then he
northeast
spoke quietly into his communicator. "Permission to engage." A voice answered instantly. Permission granted. The humans began walking forward, not running, walking directly toward the battlefield. Enemy plasma fire crashed into the ground ahead of them, turning stone
Push
into
forward.
burning
Keep moving.
liquid.
Cover the left flank.
The Valerian soldiers stopped breathing. No normal species could survive that, but the humans kept moving through the explosions like machines. Then something unexpected happened. The enemy forces suddenly stopped firing. Complete
The fleet is
silence
decimated.
spread
They've
across
broken
the
through the lines.
battlefield.
Send the coordinates to Sector 4. We
One
can't hold
enemy
them.
commander appeared on the communication screen. His face showed pure fear. He stared at the humans for several seconds before speaking.
Not them.
No. His voice shook badly. Not them. The battlefield became completely silent. Burning wreckage covered the ground while cold wind moved through the ruined streets of Velaris. Enemy soldiers stood frozen behind their barricades, not attacking, not moving, only staring at the humans. General Kale slowly lowered his weapon. He had never seen the enemy afraid before, but now, fear was clearly visible in their eyes. Commander Elias Ward stepped forward calmly through the smoke. "You know who we are," he said. The enemy commander's face tightened with anger and panic. "We thought your
We are losing
species
ground. I
disappeared
repeat,
after the
send the fleet
Titan
now,
Wars."
before it's too late.
Ward gave no
They breached the
reaction.
perimeter, Commander. We are falling back,
We
but the
were
resistance is
busy.
overwhelming. I don't know how much longer.
The communication ended instantly. Confused whispers spread among the Valerian soldiers. What are the Titan Wars?
Look at the numbers.
Why are they
The humans
scared
brought
of
everything.
I know.
humans?
Just stay ready.
Inside the command center,
By the stars.
the
Look at the
galaxy
size of them.
archives were opened
Are they the
again.
humans the prophecies warned us about?
Old hidden files
have full
began
access to the galactic
appearing on the
archives.
main screen.
These
Most of
coordinates
the
match the symbols on the
information
monolith.
had been sealed for centuries. One Valerian scientist read the ancient records with
Accessing
shaking
classified
hands.
data. Warning. Critical threat
This
detected.
can't be real.
Security breach in progress.
General Kale walked closer. "What did you find?" The scientist looked at him nervously. Humans fought in the largest
It is
war in
impossible. How could
galactic
any species
history.
survive such prolonged conflict? The level of
The
mutually
room
assured destruction
became
is illogical.
silent.
They know we're here.
Images appeared across the screen.
Bring the archive online. I need troop movements from the last
Dead
cycle.
planets, broken fleets, entire star systems burning, and human warships flying through the destruction. The Titan Wars started almost 400 years ago, the scientist explained quietly. A machine empire tried to wipe out organic life across the galaxy. Kale looked toward the human commander standing outside the window. And humans stopped them? The scientist swallowed slowly. They didn't just stop them,
Is that truly how it happened?
they hunted them.
The records say nothing of this.
More files appeared.
All
Records
ships, focus fire on the
described human
dreadnought.
soldiers surviving impossible
maneuvers now.
conditions, fighting for weeks without rest, continuing battle after severe injuries,
move! Push up to the next
winning wars even when heavily outnumbered.
to the next cover.
One file
the
contained a
line.
warning
Push them
written
back.
by an
Advance.
ancient
Do not
alien
yield.
empire. Never force humanity into total war. A young Valerian officer looked confused.
Ancient,
But why are
classified
humans
warning
so
message.
dangerous? Commander Ward suddenly entered the room. Everyone became quiet immediately. He looked at the old war images for a moment before speaking.
I don't understand the connection.
Because Earth
How does
created
any of
us
this help
that
the mission?
way. He pointed toward the screen. High gravity, violent storms, deadly
We're losing
oceans,
connection on Sector 4.
diseases,
Reroute power now.
predators,
The trajectory is still
constant
unstable.
conflict. His voice remained calm. Humans survived
Come on,
a
get
world
inside,
designed
quickly.
to kill them.
Help me, I can't reach. We're
Nobody
taking hits.
spoke.
Seal it.
Outside, distant explosions echoed again across the city. Then Ward said something that made the room colder. Peace is a choice for
We are facing
humans,
unprecedented challenges, but rest
He looked
assured,
directly
Earth
at
remains
General
secure under our
Kyle.
watch. We will not yield.
not a weakness. Suddenly, emergency alarms screamed through the command
Reroute
center.
power to the shields immediately.
A terrified
System is
soldier
locked. I
rushed
can't override it.
inside. Enemy fleet detected.
They're already here. The perimeter is
How
down.
many?
We have to evacuate the sector immediately.
Kyle asked quickly.
We have a confirmed breach on Sector 4.
The soldier
Reroute all
looked
available
pale.
assets immediately. Confirmed, General. Rerouting now.
Thousands.
They're already here. Look at the size of that
same
fleet.
moment,
We can't stop them.
a new
we have to warn
enemy
the others.
message appeared across every screen
Attention
on
citizens, we interrupt this
Velaris.
broadcast with an urgent
The
warning.
enemy
An
leader's
unidentified
face
fleet has entered
slowly
the sector.
appeared through static.
Your pathetic fleet cannot
His
stop
dark
the
eyes
inevitable.
locked
This
onto
sector will be
Commander
purged,
Ward.
starting now.
Then he spoke one sentence that froze the entire room.
We're coming for you, Ward.
If humanity enters this war fully,
Your time is over,
the
Velaris.
galaxy will burn
We
again.
are your end.
The night sky above Velaris exploded with fire. Thousands of enemy ships covered the stars like a black ocean. Their engines glowed red through the clouds while giant war cannons slowly turned toward the planet below. People across the cities stopped and looked up in fear. Many believed this would be the final night
We
of
have confirmed movement in
Velaris.
Sector Gamma.
Scramble the immediate response
Inside the
team. We need
underground
status updates
bunker,
now.
warning alarms
That's impossible.
screamed non-stop.
How many are
General
there?
Kale stared at the
There's too many
tactical
of them.
screen
The
in
sensors must be wrong.
disbelief.
How can we stop this many?
There are too many, one officer whispered. Enemy fleets were entering orbit from every direction. Even the strongest
Targeting
galactic
systems online.
armies would lose against numbers like this.
We have a confirmed lock on the incoming bogies.
But
Report
strangely,
current casualties. The line must hold
the
until reinforcements
humans
arrive.
showed no panic.
We have a breach on level 5.
Commander
Get your
Elias
platoon ready and
Ward
route
stood
immediately.
quietly near the center table,
We need immediate extraction.
drinking
The defenses are
coffee
failing.
while
How much time do we have
explosions
left?
shook the bunker walls. One Valerian soldier looked at him nervously. How are you so calm?
This is the decisive moment. Target the primary
Ward
dreadnought.
placed the
Once
metal
sector turns
cup
red,
down
we launch the assault.
slowly.
Do not hesitate.
Report status
Because
immediately.
now,
Where's the
he
breach?
said,
I don't know.
the
The
real
system's down.
fight
Look there.
starts. Before anyone could answer, every light inside the bunker suddenly turned red. Human warships above the planet activated. For the first time, Velaris finally saw the true power of Earth's fleet. The dark ships moved forward together in perfect silence. No loud speeches, no dramatic warnings, only cold precision. Then, human rail cannons fired. Blue light ripped across space at terrifying speed.
It's impossible.
Enemy
The flagship
destroyers
is gone. They're
exploded
tearing us apart.
instantly before their shields could even
All fleets,
activate.
execute the advance order. Focus
The
fire on the primary
Valerian
target. We
officers
push through to the
stared in
rendezvous point.
shock. That's impossible. But the humans were only beginning. Earth ships suddenly split into smaller attack formations. Instead of defending normally, they charged directly into the center of the enemy fleet. It looked suicidal.
Squad, flank right. Take down those heavies.
The enemy commanders
Copy,
laughed
moving.
at first. Then human tactics began. Small human fighters moved between giant enemy ships at dangerous speeds, planting explosives before escaping seconds before detonation. Entire enemy formations collapsed into chaos. Human
Rooftops clear on the left.
pilots
Moving up.
flew
Right
like
side
they
secure.
had
Watch
no
that collapsing
fear of
structure.
death.
Moving past the wreck. Smoke stick ahead.
Meanwhile,
Move,
on the
get those barriers up now.
ground,
We got incoming.
human soldiers
Fortify the
entered the
position.
ruined cities.
Move up. Cover the left flank.
The enemy
Team two, reach
expected
the second level
slow
now.
defensive combat. Instead, humans attacked aggressively from every direction.
Move it, move it.
Fast,
Keep pace. We get left
violent,
behind.
precise.
We're advancing to the rally point now.
Valerian soldiers could barely follow them. One human marine pulled two injured Valerian children from a collapsing building, while firing at enemy drones at the same time. Another continued fighting even after taking serious injuries. General Kyle watched everything with growing disbelief. The humans did not fight like ordinary soldiers. They fought like survival itself.
Victory at last. We are
Hours
free.
later, the enemy
Long
fleet
live the
finally
resistance.
began
Look,
retreating.
they're actually here.
Cheers
They didn't
exploded
forget us.
across Velaris. For the first time in months, the planet had hope. But inside the command bunker, Commander Ward was not celebrating. He stared silently at a hidden enemy signal appearing on the screen.
Zoom in on Sector
General
Gamma.
Kale
Is that
noticed
signal
his
transmission, or
expression
are we being targeted?
immediately.
Target analysis
What is
confirms the
it?
withdrawal. Mobilize the pursuit squadrons.
Ward
We
looked
show no
at him
mercy.
seriously. The enemy wasn't trying to win tonight. Kale frowned. Then what were they doing? The human commander enlarged the signal. Deep in space, something massive was moving toward Velaris. Something far larger than a normal warship.
Attention all hands. The object you see on the main screen is
Then
designated
Ward
unknown.
spoke
Its intent is
quietly.
hostile. Condition 1 alert.
They were buying time. The room became silent. Time for their planet killer weapon to arrive.
Victory
The
at last. The
celebration
sector is
across
secure.
Velaris
We
did
survived.
not last long.
Warning.
Only
All
2
planetary sensors
hours
are now
after
offline.
the enemy
Core systems
fleet
compromised.
retreated,
Power levels critical.
every sensor station on the planet began failing one by one. Lights flickered. Communication towers went
Sir,
silent.
the eastern launch signature is confirmed. Vectoring defense
Even
grid
the
now. All
stars
units, posture
above
Delta.
the
I want eyes on
cities
that target immediately.
strangely disappeared behind dark clouds. Inside the command
Stabilize the link
bunker,
now.
tension
What
filled
is the
the
status of
air
the northern
again.
flank? Are those readings accurate?
General Kale looked toward the giant hologram screen. Where is the enemy weapon now?
We've lost the signal completely. Zulu 9 is
A
offline and
nervous
unresponsive.
officer
We need to
checked
restore
the
comms now.
scanners repeatedly. We can't track it anymore. Commander Elias Ward stood silently beside the screen. His face remained calm, but his eyes stayed focused, like he was waiting for something. Then suddenly, The entire bunker shook violently.
Evacuate the center
Dust
now!
fell from the ceiling.
We can't hold this position. Move!
Several officers lost balance
hands,
as
battle
alarms
stations. We need status
screamed
reports from
across the
sectors 4
room.
through 7.
Reroute all power to
Impact
shields immediately.
detected
That's
beneath the
impossible.
capital
Enhance
city.
the visual on Sector 4 immediately.
Kyle frowned. Beneath the city? Before anyone could understand, the ground shook again. This time stronger. Far below the streets of Velaris, something ancient had awakened. Deep underground, hidden beneath thousands of years of stone and metal, giant structures slowly powered on. Blue energy lines began glowing in complete darkness. Machines untouched for centuries suddenly came alive. And at the center of it all, a massive sealed door opened for the first time in history. Hours later, a human exploration team entered the underground ruins carefully. Valerian soldiers followed behind them nervously while flashlights moved across
Commander, are you
ancient
seeing this? The
walls
structure's
covered
integrity
in
field is
unknown
fluctuating. We are not equipped for this
symbols.
level of energy signature. Recommended
The air
immediate withdrawal.
felt cold and strangely heavy. One Valerian scientist looked around in shock. These ruins are older than our civilization. Commander Ward touched one of the glowing symbols quietly. Then the lights around them suddenly activated.
The readings are clear. We proceed to
Everyone
the next chamber.
froze.
Wait, I thought I heard something back there.
A deep mechanical sound echoed through
Incredible.
the giant
What do you think
chamber.
it does?
Something was watching them. The team slowly moved deeper underground until they reached a massive circular room. In the center stood a giant black
Activation
structure
sequence complete.
connected to
Commencing
thousands
environmental
of
scan.
cables. It looked ancient, but still alive. Suddenly, red lights turned on across the chamber. A robotic voice echoed through the darkness. Identity scan initiated. Valerian soldiers immediately raised their weapons. But Commander Ward stepped forward calmly. The machine scanned him from head to toe. Then everything changed. The red lights
patterns converge,
instantly
Commander.
became
The
blue.
ancient threat awakens.
The
These glyphs
massive
hold the key to our
structure
survival.
powered up completely, and the robotic voice spoke again. Human genetic signature confirmed. The entire room
Is there someone else
went
here?
silent.
Reveal yourself. We are
General
authorized
Kale
personnel.
stared at Ward in disbelief. What does that mean? Before Ward could answer, giant holographic star maps appeared above the
Listen,
chamber.
children of the Earth.
Unknown
I am
planets,
memory.
ancient fleets, lost civilizations. The machine spoke once more. Welcome back.
The data streams
The
are
voice
corrupted. It's
paused
overloading the
for
system.
several
What kind of weapon is
seconds,
this? It defies known
then
physics.
finished the sentence. Guardian species. Fear slowly appeared on the Valerian faces, because the machine did not sound surprised to see humans. It sounded like it had been waiting for them. Suddenly, warning symbols flashed across the hologram. A countdown began. Commander Ward's expression darkened immediately.
Shields are failing, Commander.
Kale looked
Reroute
toward
auxiliary
him
power to the core
quickly.
right now.
Yes, General.
What is
On it.
happening now?
Shields up. All
Ward
batteries.
stared
Target
at
the
the
incoming
screen.
object. Weapons free.
The enemy weapon found us. Then the ancient AI revealed something terrifying. The planet killer weapon was already entering orbit above Velaris. The sky above Velaris disappeared behind darkness. Not clouds, not smoke. Something far worse. The enemy planet killer weapon slowly moved across orbit like a giant shadow swallowing the stars themselves. Its metal surface stretched for hundreds of kilometers, covered with glowing red energy lines. Entire cities below fell silent. People stopped running, stopped speaking. Many simply stared upward in horror, because everyone understood the truth. If that weapon fired, Velaris would cease to exist. Inside the ancient underground chamber, warning alarms echoed endlessly
what
while
defense do we
the
have against a
AI
weapon that can crack a
projected the
planet in half?
giant enemy structure above the planet. General Kale looked pale. How do we
projections are
stop
only steady at
something that
98%.
large?
All our models confirm it. There is no path to victory.
No one answered.
The targeting sequence
Even
is
the
nearly complete.
Valerian
We have one
military
chance to end this war before the
scientists
fleet
looked
reaches sector gamma.
hopeless. Then
Proceed to
Commander
plan.
Elias
Proceed to
Ward
Commander,
finally
this is sheer
spoke.
madness. We'll lose half the
We
fleet.
destroy it from the inside.
Look at the projections. They've reached the sector
Several
already.
officers
If we don't
stared at
activate the
him.
shield, everyone is doomed.
That's impossible, one scientist said immediately. Its shields are too strong. Ward remained calm. Not everywhere. The hologram changed. A small weak point appeared deep inside the enemy superweapon, a thermal core. But
path through the
reaching
Hyperion
it
fleet is
meant
narrow.
flying
We have a
directly
4.2%
through the
chance of reaching
center
the
of the
core.
enemy
It's the only
fleet.
option, Commander.
Almost certain death. Silence filled the chamber. Then one human pilot stepped forward. We'll do
They're
it.
advancing on sector gamma. All squadrons,
Another
prep for
human
immediate launch.
soldier
We hold the line
nodded.
here.
Then
We
another.
need volunteers for this mission.
And
It's
another.
dangerous, but vital to the success of the operation.
Not one of them hesitated. General Kale watched them carefully. The humans were volunteering for a mission they knew they might never survive. Yet none of them showed fear. Outside the bunker,
breaking the line. Evasive
the
maneuvers now.
final
Targeting the
battle had
vortex.
already
Firing solution
begun.
ready. Do it.
Enemy warships poured into orbit while explosions lit up the sky like burning storms. Human fleets charged forward to create an opening toward the superweapon.
This is it.
Valerian soldiers joined them. For the first time in history, humans and Valerians fought side by side.
Keep moving. Stay low and get to the transport. Hurry, the building's coming down.
Human fighters crashed directly into enemy destroyers to protect evacuation ships. Ground soldiers defended civilians street by street while buildings collapsed around them. One injured human marine continued fighting even after losing communication with his entire squad. A Valerian medic tried to pull him back.
The fate of the fleet rests on your
You'll
shoulders.
die out there. The human simply reloaded his weapon. Then I'll die buying time.
There is no turning back. This mission is
Meanwhile,
critical,
Commander
Tycho.
Ward
We must see this
prepared
through,
the
no matter
assault
the cost.
team near the launch
The window is closing,
bay.
Ward. We have to override the
General
defense.
Kale
Catastrophic
walked
failure on
toward
this.
him
We're dead if we stay
slowly.
here. Trust me.
You humans knew this could happen, Kale said quietly.
Stay focused.
Did you come here
The perimeter will
expecting
hold.
war?
We've been through worse than this, and we will endure.
Ward looked toward the burning sky above the city. No, he answered. We came because someone asked for help. For a moment, Kyle said nothing. Then suddenly, the entire planet shook violently. The enemy superweapon had started charging. Massive red energy gathered across the sky like a second sun forming above Velaris. Panic spread everywhere. The countdown had begun.
The enemy is closer
Commander
than we thought.
Ward looked toward
Maintain
his
formation and
pilots
protect the
one
convoy at
final
all costs.
time. This is a one-way mission, he warned. The human
They said
pilot
this nebula was
smiled
impenetrable.
slightly.
They said the same thing about the cryogen
One
blockade.
answered
We didn't come
calmly.
this far to turn back now.
Good thing humans are bad at quitting. Seconds later, their ships launched directly into the burning battlefield. Straight toward the planet killer weapon. Straight toward almost certain death. The skies above Velaris burned brighter than a dying star. Red energy covered the giant planet killer weapon, while thousands of
All
enemy
wings, focus
ships
fire on the dreadnought.
protected
We have
it
to push
from
them back.
every
Copy that.
direction.
Engaging now. Watch your flank, Red Squadron.
Explosions
Weapons free,
flashed
punch it.
endlessly across space
locking on. Trajectory
as the
stable. We're almost
final
in range.
battle reached its breaking point. Inside their small attack ships, the human pilots
All
flew
fighters engage the
directly
blockade
toward
immediately.
the enemy
Weapons free.
superweapon.
We must secure the skies
No
above Velaris.
fear.
Damage report now.
No
We're taking heavy fire on the starboard side. Reroute
Only
power to the shields.
silence and focus.
I can't stabilize the core, Captain.
Commander
Warning!
Elias
Multiple enemy
Ward
interceptors
watched the
detected. Brace for
battlefield
impact.
from the command carrier high above the planet. Around him, warning alarms screamed non-stop.
Attention all hands. Battle stations. We have 10
Enemy
minutes until the superweapon
interceptors
charges. Give me a
closing
firing solution
fast.
now.
Human fleets losing formation. The weapon will fire in 3 minutes. But Ward's eyes stayed locked on the attack team racing
The temporal
toward the
distortion is
enemy
stabilizing,
core.
but look at the sheer brutality.
Outside,
How is this possible?
human
They're
ships
sacrificing their own people.
sacrificed
All power to the
themselves
forward
one
batteries. We're
after
breaking through.
another to
Shields are
keep
failing,
the
Commander.
path
We can't take another
open.
hit like that. We fight on.
Valerian soldiers
This way, follow me
watched
now.
in disbelief.
Keep moving. Don't stop.
No
Request
species
immediate
fought
intervention.
like this.
They are overwhelmed. How much
No
longer must we watch this
species
happen, Captain?
protected strangers like this. One young Valerian officer whispered quietly, "Why are humans willing to die for us?"
Keep moving. Stay right behind
General
us.
Kale
Watch your
looked
step right here.
toward the
We're almost there.
battlefield silently. Then
Defend
he
the light.
finally
Avenge
understood.
the fallen. For Velaris.
Humans were not fighting because Velaris was important. They were fighting because innocent people were
They're
in
targeting the lead
danger.
squadron. Break right, break right.
And to
Copy that.
humanity.
Engaging countermeasures. Weapons free.
That was enough. Suddenly, the attack team reached the outer defense line of the superweapon. Enemy cannons opened fire instantly. One human fighter exploded, then another.
Helm, maintain course and
But
speed.
the
weapon is
remaining
charging, but we
ships
must
kept
proceed as planned.
moving
All
forward
hands,
through
brace
the
for potential
firestorm.
situations. Incoming fire.
Inside
Barrel
the
roll
lead
now.
fighter, Captain Reyes tightened her grip
that.
on the
Hang on.
controls
Get
while
down.
warning lights covered the
The whole deck is
cockpit.
coming down.
Core chamber ahead,
Red Squadron.
she
Title
said
formation and prepare
calmly.
for the breach. Weapons free on my mark. We are not
Behind
retreating.
her, enemy
Commander
warships
Ward, your
closed in
unauthorized presence is a direct
rapidly.
threat. This is your final warning.
There
Stand
was
down
no
or be
escape
neutralized.
anymore. Commander Ward's voice came through the radio one final time.
All decks. Report status.
Captain,
Engineering.
you
I need
know
power
what
diverted to the shields
happens after
immediately.
this.
Helm. Stabilize our trajectory.
Reyes smiled faintly. Yeah, she answered. Then she looked at the burning planet below her. At least they get tomorrow. The human ships accelerated. Straight
Starboard
into the
convoy. Rolling
center
left
of the
now.
super
Copy that. I'm
weapon.
right behind you. The core is
For
destabilizing.
1 second, everything became silent. Then, a massive blue explosion tore through space. The enemy planet killer weapon cracked apart from the inside. Giant pieces of burning metal exploded across orbit, while shock waves shook nearby fleets. The superweapon was destroyed. Enemy ships immediately began retreating in panic.
Look, the sun.
Across
It is
Velaris,
beautiful.
civilians
We are
stared
saved.
upward as sunlight finally broke through the dark clouds again. The war was over.
Council members, the situation is critical. I repeat,
Days later,
we must act now to prevent
leaders from
catastrophic
across
loss.
the galaxy
Citizens of the galaxy,
gathered
our
to
resolve
hear
is being tested.
Velaris'
But let this
official
transmission be a beacon
statement.
of hope. We will not yield.
General Kyle stood before millions of viewers. For several seconds, he
We
said
stand at the
nothing.
precipice of a new age. Behind me
Then
is the
he
face of
spoke
humanity,
quietly.
united against the darkness.
The
We will not
galaxy
fail them.
called
The reports
humans
about the defeat are highly
monsters from a
exaggerated.
death
This is a
world.
declaration of total war. Surrender now or
Images
face
of
annihilation.
human soldiers
Across the
appeared
eastern
across
sector,
the
our
screen.
sisters stand united. For
Humans
the alliance,
rescuing
for victory.
children.
The reports of our defeat are highly
Humans
exaggerated.
protecting
This is a declaration of
civilians.
total war. Surrender now or
Humans
face
fighting
annihilation.
impossible
I know the
odds.
cost of this war weighs heavily on all of us. But
Kyle
we cannot surrender
looked
now.
directly
We must
into
fight
the
until the very
camera.
Velaris, the shining jewel of the galaxy.
But when
After
the
centuries of
galaxy
wandering,
abandoned
humanity has
us,
finally arrived home.
Those monsters were the only ones who came. Silence spread across the stars. And from that day forward,
beautiful, isn't it?
whenever darkness rose again in the
Colours are incredible
galaxy,
this cycle.
people no
Warships,
longer feared
stabilized
Earth.
formation. We
They
are
prayed
home.
humanity would answer.